Well, good afternoon. For those who have never been to a bill signing, this is a process where every bill that the City Council passes comes before the mayor, some of which the mayor's had some influence in drafting. Some of the legislation is done at the request of the mayor, but I've said I would hold a hearing on every bill, never let anyone lapse in without a public hearing. Most times, nobody objects, and most times the few objections there are don't make any sense to me, so I tend to sign the bills. But there have been cases, famous cases, where I had listened to people and I said, wait a second, and much to my staff's annoyance, refused to sign the bill, said I wanted more time, and then sometimes I forget whether we came back. One, I remember we did come back and said yes, one we said no, whatever. But I don't think these are contentious today, but it's part of democracy. And what's different in New York City is our legislators, and we have at least one city councilwoman sitting right here looking glamorous, and another one here looking not so glamorous. Our city council actually reads the legislation. They don't vote on it in the middle of the night. They hold their hearings. They do their due diligence. It's done. And I've always argued that the democracy in New York City is infinitely more transparent and honest than any other level of government I've ever seen. Anyways, we have three bills, and the first before us today is introductory number 707A, sponsored by council members James, Rose, Fidler, Foster, Capel, Lander, Mendez, Nelson, Palmer, Williams, Mark Viverito, Reyna, Mealy, Chin, Jackson, Levin, Gennaro, Rodriguez, Strom, Barron, Dickens, Garodnick, Koo, and Halloran. Over the past decade, our administration has undertaken numerous major capital projects to help preserve and build on our city's process. Some of the work we've done in-house, leveraging the talents of the best municipal workforce in the country. Other times, however, if we determine we can get a better value or if the work itself is highly specialized, we contract out for the services. And under the direction of Deputy Mayor Kaz Holloway, we are working to strengthen the mechanisms by which each agency and our administration as a whole oversee these projects. Introductory number 707A builds on these efforts. This legislation requires the administration to inform the council if a contract valued at more than $10 million relating to a project in the capital budget increases by 20% or more. It would also require notification if, after the council has first been informed, there are additional project costs increases of 10%. This reporting will provide greater insight and transparency into the contracting actions of the city, and I would like to thank Deputy Mayor for Operations Kaz Holloway, Mayor's Office of Contract Services, Director Marla Simpson, and their staffs for their work on this bill, with my Office of City Legislative Affairs and also the City Council for approving this legislation. Is there any city councilman or agency heads that like to speak? Would anybody like to speak about this? This is a good piece of legislation drafted with the administration and the City Council. If not, I will sign the bill. Today's date is? The 26th. I knew that. The second bill before us today is introductory number 791, sponsored by Speaker Quinn and council members Gonzalez, Arroyo, Brewer, Chin, Drum, Gentili, James, Capel, Kosklowitz, Lander, Lappin, Levin, Recchia, Rose, Seabrook, Van, Williams, Mark Viverito, Palma, Vaca, Garodnick, Mendez, Gennaro, Van Bremer, Mealy, Rodriguez, Jackson, Barron, Dickens, Eugenie, Koo, Reyna, and Weprin. Introductory number 791 extends the rent stabilization law from April 1st, 2012 through April 1st, 2015. In order to extend the rent stabilization law, the city must determine that a housing emergency exists to merit the need for rent stabilization. The 2011 Housing Vacancy Survey conducted by the New York City Department of Housing Preservation and Development reports the vacancy rate in rental apartments to be 3.12%, well below the 5% rate at which the law requires that rent regulation be discontinued. The rent stabilization law enacted in 1969 has been extended in 3-year periods since 1979 and requires owners of properties with 6 or more rental units to abide by the annual rent increase set by the Rent Guidelines Board. And I would like to thank the Department of Housing Preservation Commissioner Matt Wambua and his staff for their work on this bill, along with my Office of City Legislative Affairs and also the City Council for approving this bill. We have 3 speakers. Traditionally, I always let women go first, but you're the commissioner, so you go first.
That's okay.
And then she'll go behind. They'll get over it.
Thank well, thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to thank you. I'd also like to thank the speaker, as well as Chairman DeLon, sponsors Gonzalez, and sponsor Mark Viverito, and the rest of the council for passing this bill. As was presented in the 2011 HVS vacancy survey, New York City has a 3% vacancy rate. Accordingly, this legislation serves as a vital means of preserving affordability. In addition to that, it also speaks to the fact, the 3% vacancy rate also speaks to the fact that the work that we're doing under the Mayor's Housing Plan is absolutely essential. Lastly, I'd like to thank my staff, specifically Dr. Moonwa Lee, as well as Liz Gomer and Alnisha Maniaci for their work in pulling together the HVS. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Invite me first next time.
Thank you. I will not invite you first next time. I've got to straighten all this out. Councilwoman?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. At a time, it's an honor to be here with the Mayor today to enact this legislation. I think it's so important in a time where our economy is not exactly where we'd like it to be, that we could preserve units of housing in the city of New York. We have to ensure that we protect housing so that this city doesn't become a city of just the poor and the rich. So in reference to that, I say congratulations to all, congratulations, and thank you, Mayor Bloomberg, and also Speaker Quinn, as well as my colleague, DeLon. Thank you.
Councilman DeLon?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'll be very brief. I'm proud that you're signing the 2 items into law today, but very proud, according to the testimony and according to the latest housing and vacancy survey report, that it shows the city's housing stock in the best condition ever since the housing and vacancy survey was conducted. I think that's a testament to our work together and our time here together in City Hall and the City Council. And also pleased that the data in the housing vacancy survey shows that during a down economy, New York City continued to add new units to its housing pipeline. So I'm very proud to be a part of this legislation, very proud to work with your administration to achieve these type of results for New Yorkers. Thank you all.
Thank you. Would anybody like to add anything? If not, I will sign the bill. One for you, one for you, one for you, and one for And then the last bill before us today is introductory number 446A, sponsored by council members Halloran, Koo, Jackson, Gennaro, and Barron. This bill renames 6 thoroughfares in Douglaston, Queens, and makes corresponding changes to the New York City map. These 6 thoroughfares will now be known by their historical names and renamed. The renaming has the support of the local community and Community Board 11. Councilman, would you like to say something?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The community of Douglaston since 1972 has been struggling, trying to keep and preserve the unique character of our neighborhoods. And in particular, this administration has walked hand in hand with them to get done the Douglaston Historical District, for which we are very, very grateful to the mayor for all of his hard work and assistance in that. And this is the final step in that phase, restoring the traditional street names that date back in a community that existed since 1659. So we are very honored to be joined by our friends in the Douglaston Little Neck Historical Society who've pushed so hard. I'd like to thank Speaker Quinn for her leadership, the Parks Department who've weighed in on this, the police and fire departments who've also weighed in on this, and of course the chair of the Parks Committee, Melissa Mark Viverito, my colleague, who was very instrumental in helping us go forward, my office staff, in particular John Mulvey and Chrissy Voskarishian, who made sure that this bill wound its way through the channels in City Hall. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. We appreciate it.
Dan, happy to do it. We have 4 speakers, 3 from the Douglaston Little Neck Historical Society, Joan Hellman, Stuart Hirsch, and William Severs, and then 1 from the Douglaston Civic Association, Elliot Sachi, is it? Sochi?
Hi, my name is Joan Hellman. I live at 240-34 43rd Avenue, which I hope to be amended to Pine Street. Before I go on, I'd like to thank Dan Halloran for all his work.
Good.
Thank you, Dan. I'm a client of Accessoride due to a back problem. My late husband, Joseph Hellman, also used Accessoride. Because the GPSs of Accessoride vehicles directed the drivers to a dead-end street at 43rd Avenue in Little Neck and not 43rd Avenue in Douglaston, I had to, and still have to, constantly call the expediter at Accessoride to say the vehicle was not at our house for our pickup. Then the expediter would have to call the driver to go to our house at 43rd Avenue. We often waited 1/2 to 3/4 of an hour until the driver finally came to our house. The situation continues. I thought I could remedy the situation by having Accessoride add to their manifest that we were off Douglaston Parkway and not Little Neck Parkway. However, the drivers rely on their GPS and very rarely read the manifest. Had our street been named Pine Street, none of the problems with Accessoride would occur. The GPSs of all vehicles will be updated to show my street as Pine Street, as well as the other historical names in the Douglaston Hill area as their former names were. We need the historic name Pine Street and all the other historic names restored, not just because it is appropriate for this historic area, but because all residents in the Douglaston Hill area who require the services of Accessoride or ambulances must have their health needs met. Thank you.
How do the moving maps, how often do they update changes to names? Does anybody know how it works?
When was the last time we did this? Maybe about 10 years.
No. When does Google update their maps? We changed the name of the street, but you...
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either.
I hope it's soon.
And how do they get the information? They call towns, or do we call them, or?
City planning,
No, city planning gets the PD, the FDNY, and OEM changes our maps, which then I'm assuming goes to our, the ambulance.
Well, but if she's right, if you want to have the cab show up, they've got to, they don't look at our maps, they look at Google Maps. That's what I do.
Right.
Everybody does.
So that must be updated to show
Yeah, but
Pine Street. So
I just don't know how often it's done.
Well, if
We
they're
should-
overlaying municipal maps, Mr. Mayor, I'm sure that would.
We should actually find out, Hader, we don't have to get back to anybody, but just ask, that or city planning. I would call Amanda Burden's office, just to see if we can do that. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Next, other people.
State Cartographic Commission?
Who?
The State Cartographic Commission?
I didn't know whether the state cartographic, Stuart Hirsch next?
Wish I could memorize this. I'm Stuart Hirsch, trustee of the Douglaston and Little Neck Historical Society and a resident of the area since 1939. Sunday is my birthday. Many say it's a very appropriate day for my birthday, April Fool's Day. In any case, I can't think of a better birthday gift than your signature, Mr. Mayor, on this measure. The efforts to get these remaining six historic streets restored actually began in 1972, 40 years ago. I won't tell you how old I'll be on Sunday, but I was 37 when the efforts for this began.
Let me stop you. I got to tell you a story. This morning I heard a story on Bloomberg Radio about Cheney getting a new heart, and they said it was usual to give it to an elderly person.
Right.
Cheney's a year older than me. I was really annoyed.
I thought the same thing myself. I won't... I've lost my place.
That's right.
It's been a long time coming. Paraphrasing a quote from way back in the 1600s, the mills of the city grind slowly, but grind they do. 8 years ago, in 2004, we honored you at a luncheon to celebrate the historic district designation of the Douglaston Hill District. You won't recall that, and that's understandable given how many well-deserved such honors you receive. In fact, a scheduling conflict prevented you from attending the luncheon, but honor you we did, in absentia, along with Tony Avella and Frank Padovan, who were present and who, with you, helped us gain historic district designation. You won't recall it, but we will never forget it. Now, thanks to the efforts of Councilmember Halloran, and with your signature today, you provide appropriate addresses for our 40-year quest. And for that, we honor you again, Mr. Mayor, today.
Frank did a lot for this, for the region. It was a shame that he lost his election because he really was working very hard for the community. Padovan was a very good guy. He still is a good human being, but it's, his services are missed. It's really a shame. And then next, William Severs. There you go. Sir.
Good afternoon, Mayor.
Good afternoon.
How are you today?
Good.
Council? Good to see you. I have here a letter from our president I'd like to read to you. It's addressed to the Honorable Mayor of New York City. In appreciation of your efforts in behalf of accomplishing the restoration of the historic, authentic street names of 6 streets in and around Douglaston Hill District, and of your official signature on the measure as originally introduced by then Councilman Tony Avella, now State Senator, and recently reintroduced by Councilmember Dan Halloran. Thank you, Mayor Bloomberg, for your constant attention to the very important historic preservation of the city that we all love so much. And a token of this happening today, I'd like to present to you a framed map of the Douglaston area, and I'll point out to you the spot where the new where the streets are. Oops, we got it upside down. I hope GPS doesn't do that.
Actually, you do want to do that to come together.
That's right. It's Pine Street, Poplar Street, Oregon Avenue. We had a lot of to do about the use of the word Oregon.
It's New York.
That's right, and it's on the east. And Prospect Avenue. So, and the map is dated 1863, and guess who the surveyor was? Fellow by the name of Willits. We all know Willits from Queens.
Willett was the first mayor of the city of New York.
Is that right?
The first mayor was named Willett, and if you go downstairs, outside our press office, there's a plaque on the wall. And I've asked everybody who works in City Hall, do you know who? And nobody ever read the plaque.
Well, you can add this to it.
Anyway, a nice picture.
Thank you.
Great. Good. And last, from the Douglaston Civic Association, Elliot Sachi, is it? Sochi.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Councilman. Okay. My name is Elliot Sochi, President of the Douglaston Civic Association. I hasten to state that I am not a resident of the area requesting the restoration of street names to their original state. However, I do support the restoration of the street names. It is important to note that the area known as the Douglaston Hill District has attained New York City landmark status. Not the entire area, but a significant portion is landmarked. A criteria for attaining landmarking is that the area has a sense of place. From its original development, the particular types of architecture represented in the neighborhood, the tree-lined streets, and the general appearance all contributed to a sense of place. In some measure, the original street names also contributed to this sense of place. Collectively, these circumstances contributed to the character of this neighborhood. Removing the original street names diminished what the residents had been trying to preserve. Restoring the original street names would restore the historical sense of the community and restore the original sense of place. In closing, the restoration of the original street names would complement the bucolic atmosphere that exists in a small corner of the greatest city in the world.
Good, good. Thank you very much. Anybody else? If not, I'll be happy to sign the bill. Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Take a nice picture.
Get everybody around.
Elliot, come on. Well, we have a photographer here. I'm sorry, Dan.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Nice to see you. Well, thank you, everyone. Enjoy the day. Nice day to New York City.
Okay, you want to take the rest of the pen?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We're going to get another picture right now.
Yeah, one right now.